The night I jokingly told my boss to marry me. I thought it was just a careless sentence that would disappear into the noise of a long workday. But the way she looked at me afterward, the silence, the strange sadness in her eyes, made my heart sink before I even realized what I had done. Then she said something that changed everything. "Stay with me tonight." At first I thought she was joking too, but she wasn't smiling. Before we begin this emotional story, take a moment to support the channel. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us we're all human, please like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more powerful stories. My name is Michael Carter, and 3 years ago I was just another struggling guy trying to survive in Chicago. The city looked beautiful in photos, bright lights reflecting off glass skyscrapers, people walking confidently with purpose. But when you were barely affording rent and eating instant noodles 3 nights a week, Chicago felt less like a dream and more like a battlefield. I worked as a junior marketing assistant at a mid-sized advertising company downtown. The pay was modest, the hours were long, and most days I felt invisible, but I kept going because I had no choice. My boss, however, was impossible to ignore. Her name was Rebecca Lawson. Rebecca was the CEO and founder of the company. In her early 40s, she carried herself with a calm authority that made everyone straighten their posture when she entered a room. She was brilliant, sharp, and intimidating in the way people become when life has forced them to build walls. Most employees admired her from a distance, but somehow, over time, she started noticing me. Maybe it was because I stayed late every night finishing reports. Maybe it was because I treated the janitors with the same respect I gave the executives. Or maybe she simply saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. It started with small conversations. One evening, when nearly everyone had left the office, she stopped by my desk and asked if I had eaten dinner. I laughed and told her that ramen noodles counted as dinner. She frowned like that answer bothered her more than it should have. After that, things slowly changed. Sometimes she would bring extra coffee when she arrived in the morning and quietly place a cup on my desk. Other days she would ask my opinion during meetings, surprising the entire room since I was technically the lowest person in the hierarchy. But despite these small moments, the distance between us remained clear. She was the CEO. I was just Michael. Then came the night everything shifted. It was late autumn, and Chicago was already freezing. The office was nearly empty except for a few people finishing a major campaign that had to launch the next morning. Rebecca had been working non-stop for 2 days. I could see the exhaustion in her face when she walked into the conference room where I was organizing files. Her usually perfect composure looked cracked, like a porcelain mask about to break. Trying to lighten the mood, I made a stupid joke. I told her that if the campaign succeeded, she should reward me with a promotion, or better yet, marry me. It was the kind of harmless joke employees sometimes make when tension is high. Normally, someone would laugh and move on, but Rebecca didn't laugh. Instead, she looked at me in a way I had never seen before, like my words had touched a wound I didn't know existed. The silence stretched longer than it should have. Then she quietly asked if I could stay a little longer to help her finish something. Of course I agreed. We ended up being the last 2 people in the entire building. Around midnight, she finally shut her laptop and leaned back in her chair. The office lights were dim, and outside the windows the city looked like a sea of glowing stars. That was when she said it. She told me that my joke about marriage was the first time someone had spoken to her like a normal person in months, not like a boss, not like a billionaire entrepreneur, just like a woman. Then she said something that made my chest tighten. She asked if I could stay with her that night. Not in a romantic way, not in a strange or inappropriate way, just stay. At first I didn't understand, but then she explained. Rebecca Lawson had built an empire from nothing. She had sacrificed relationships, sleep, and nearly every piece of her personal life to make the company successful. Her husband had left years earlier, saying he felt like he was married to a corporation instead of a woman. Her friends slowly disappeared as her responsibilities grew heavier. And now, despite being surrounded by hundreds of employees, she was completely alone. That night she had realized something terrifying. She didn't have anyone she could call just to sit with her when things felt overwhelming. No family nearby, no partner, no one. Except, somehow, the quiet marketing assistant who made bad jokes about ramen noodles. We didn't go to a bar. We didn't do anything dramatic. We simply sat in her office drinking terrible vending machine coffee and talking about life. For the first time, Rebecca wasn't the powerful CEO everyone feared. She was just Rebecca. She told me about growing up in a small town in Ohio, about her dream of building something meaningful, and about the loneliness that success sometimes brings. In return, I told her about my struggles, losing my father young, moving to Chicago with barely enough money, and constantly feeling like I was one mistake away from losing everything. Somewhere between those stories, something unexpected happened. The wall between boss and employee started to crumble. By the time the sun began rising over Chicago's skyline, we had talked for nearly 6 hours. Neither of us had slept. But strangely, we both felt lighter. That morning, she thanked me for staying. And life went on, or at least that's what I thought. Over the next few months, our relationship evolved into something unusual but deeply meaningful. We weren't dating, we weren't crossing any professional lines, but we had become something rare in the corporate world. Friends, real friends. Sometimes we would walk through Millennium Park after work, talking about random things like music or childhood memories. Other times she would ask my opinion about company decisions, valuing my perspective in ways that still surprised me. But more importantly, she started changing. Rebecca began leaving the office earlier. She started reconnecting with old friends. She even took her first real vacation in 10 years. One evening, nearly a year after that long night in the office, she invited me to dinner. Not a business dinner, just dinner. We sat in a quiet restaurant overlooking the Chicago River. The city lights shimmered across the water, and the air carried that peaceful calm that only exists after midnight. That was when she told me something I'll never forget. She said that night, the one when I jokingly asked her to marry me, saved her life, not literally, but emotionally, because it reminded her that success meant nothing if you had no one to share it with. Then she surprised me again. She told me she had been thinking about something for a long time. About us. Not about power dynamics or company rules, just about the connection two human beings had built through honesty and kindness. She asked me a question that made my heart stop. She asked if I ever wondered what might happen if two people who started as strangers became something more. I didn't answer immediately, not because I didn't feel something, but because I wanted to be sure. A year earlier, I was a broke assistant trying to survive. Now I was sitting across from one of the most powerful women in the city, realizing that she wasn't powerful because of money or titles. She was powerful because she had the courage to be vulnerable, and in that moment I understood something important. Sometimes the smallest joke, the smallest act of kindness, can change someone's entire life. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a second to like the video and share it with someone who believes that genuine connections still exist in this world. And before we reach the ending, I have a special request. Comment the word hope below if you believe that even the most unexpected moments can change someone's life forever, because what happened next changed mine. I told Rebecca the truth. I admitted that I'd spent the past year trying not to fall for her, trying to ignore the way her smile made stressful days easier, trying to forget the quiet strength she showed when she trusted me with her vulnerability. But feelings don't follow corporate rules. They grow in silence, and eventually, they demand to be heard. Rebecca didn't rush toward me or say anything dramatic. She simply smiled, the kind of smile that carries relief, gratitude, and hope all at once. 2 years later, we stood together on the edge of Lake Michigan at sunrise, not as boss and employee, not as strangers, but as partners ready to begin a new chapter of life. And sometimes